Happy Sunday. We have some important stuff to review. Yesterday I was sat right here filming this video, talking to you on the camera. And we're talking, as always, about maximizing life, doing things. And so afterwards I went out and I did exactly that. I said, I'm gonna get in my car, I'm gonna drive around, and I'm just gonna stumble into something, right? I was hungry for lunch. I didn't know what I wanted. So I hopped on the road. I went north. This great big long road right by my house that goes all the way up. So I hop on this road. No idea what I want to do. Just no, I want to get some food in me, some grub in me. You know, it's about noon yesterday probably. And driving up past the local stuff, past the local scenes, local town. You know how these state roads are, you know, Route 1, right? You just kind of drive up this road and you got all your local places, you got all your local stuff. But how often do you stay on a state road? Whenever we're going long distances, we take the highway, we take a plane or something like that. But people don't go long distances on these state roads. There's too many traffic lights, there's too much, it's not efficient, right? So for the sake of efficiency, we cut out that vibrancy, right? So hop on the road, get past all the stuff, you know, 15 minutes away, within a 15-minute radius. That's like, all right, I passed this before, I've probably, you know, been in that place before, whatever. Get eventually up to this good taco place that me and the woman like to go to. And that's kind of like the high watermark, the high boundary mark of how far I've traveled within the local area. So it's like 25 minutes away. Pretty much everywhere within a 25-minute radius. I feel like I've been at this point, but we fail to travel outside that radius, you know? So I figured, let's puncture the veil. Let's lift the veil here. Let's puncture through. Let's actually go on an adventure. So I kept driving north past the taco place. There's good tacos. I see them serving them. They're serving nice drinks. They do a nice happy hour special, right? But I puncture the veil, go straight through. Then you got a state park, right? You got a state park on the left. And I've been to state park. It's beautiful. It combines sand, natural sandy trails with forests, you know, deep forested areas and swamps. You know, I'm down here in beautiful tropical Florida, so we have kind of a nice mix of biomes and such. But eventually I get further up and I see a sign for a nature center, a center of natural beauty. They might as well call it, because this place was fantastic. They had a little private beach with the bluest, most turquoise water you've ever seen in your life. They had trails that zigzag up and down the hills with these grand big trees, and also the sandy scrub. In Florida, we have what's called a natural scrub environment in a number of places. And it's an endangered biome because it drains so well. This is like kind of sandy soil, dry sandy soil. It drains extremely well, so it's great prime real estate for apartment buildings, but it's also home to rare tortoises, such as the gopher tortoise, among other creatures. So we're climbing up, I'm climbing up through this sandy scrub. I'm looking at the blue ocean in the distance and all these beautiful houses on the island in the area. I'm thinking to myself, damn, if I haven't lived in my area, Florida, for 4 years now, 4 years I've been in this locale, and I've never been to this park, 26 minutes away from me. And here I am, a guy who loves nature, who loves getting out there, who really, I will, if I'm bored on a given day, I will go on Google Maps and I will scour every single park, every single trail, every single nook and cranny to see where I can explore, to see where I haven't been yet. But I hadn't actually seen this place yet. And so I just stumbled into it. And it was too small to really to see. You would have to scroll in significantly and know where to look for the little green lines. If you go on Google Maps, you see these little green lines. You have to know exactly where to look unless you actually went up that way. But who the hell's going up that way? Because if you're going up that far, why would you take a local road? You might as well take the highway at that point. So Anyways, stumble into this park, have a good time, walk around, pop off the top, get a little sun, not a big deal. And then I'm thinking, I'm hungry. I still haven't eaten. I'm not getting delirious, but the stomach is empty, and it's requiring some fuel. It's really requiring some nutrients at this point, right? Where the afternoon's pressing on. I hadn't eaten breakfast, sue me. And we get up to this little town, right? And I live in a populated area. I live in what I believe is technically a city. There's a big morass, a big area, a mega city forming north of Miami. And I live towards the northern edge of this mega city. So you go up a little bit north though, and you just find this beautiful, like pristine area. There's farms up there, huge farms, produce acres. There's ranch land up there. So I'm in the area up north here where it really starts to thin out, right? It really starts to thin out. No longer is there strip mall on the left, McDonald's on the right. I put to my right when I meant left, whatever. No longer are there just buildings stacked on top of each other. Finally, there's a little breathing room in the environment. And so I get up there, I'm cruising around, I see pretty little restaurants, some boutique stores, some old folks walking around. It feels scenic, it feels like a beach town. It feels like somewhere out of a movie. Suddenly, the world has slowed down. I'm in a completely different zone, even though I'm 30 minutes away from where I live. Something like 20-something miles. And it's totally flipped. The whole world's totally flipped on itself. And I see this little diner. I'm hungry. And what I had in my mind was a deli sandwich. So I see this diner. And I enter it. And the waitress just walks up to me. And middle-aged lady. You tell that she's, career diner lady. Sweet woman. She said, sit anywhere you like, honey. So I sat anywhere I liked. She's like, we do breakfast all day. Let me know if I can get you anything to drink. Sweetest lady ever. This was suddenly from like South Florida, Miami, which is kind of like the Northeast except in the South. Everyone's so vain, everything's so fast, whatever. Suddenly I'm in the South. Suddenly I'm in a totally different biome of the United States of America. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. I got a bacon, egg, and cheese on white bread with home fries and ketchup. And they had college basketball on the TV. There's a little TV in the corner. And above me, there was a TV with like the floating DirecTV logo because it wasn't hooked up. There's a couple other people in there. Just look like locals, regulars. Cheese. I stumbled into the past. And if you go online nowadays to most places, people tell you, oh, we used to have this in America. Why don't we have diners anymore? Now it's all fast food, blah, blah, blah. These doomers, these losers, have they ever stepped outside their front door? All of the different times in my life I can think of that I've stumbled into some place that feels like it's from the past, really, that's just getting outside of your comfort zone and seeking out something new. When we talk about adventuremaxxing, when I talk about adventuremaxxing, what I'm really talking about is going to drink deeply of life, to see unseen sights, because we all have our routines. We all have our point A where we live and our point B where we work and our point C where we hang out with our friends. At the end of the day, there's only 3 places. But if you want to step into the life of a Quentin Tarantino movie without, breaking the law or shooting at anybody or something that would happen in one of those movies, I don't judge, but don't do that. If you want to step into the truest life out there, all you got to do is step outside your comfort zone, step outside your circle, hop in your car, and just go somewhere a little different. See the sights of a town you've never been to before, because imagine this. You go to a new area where the style and the culture is somehow completely different. despite being very nearby. And you think, you dream, what would it be like to have grown up in this place compared to where I was? And all these stories unfold from your brain. You go to a local spot, local deli, local whatever, and you can just feel that local energy the way they are. You see the locals talking to each other, and enjoying. Like when I was at the diner, there's a local family. There's a local guy, a regular, because he comes in and the waitress like, good to see you, blah, 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 gives him a menu. He gets his regular thing. I'm the outsider there, and I'm looking like, wow, I'm on this grand adventure 30 minutes from where I live. That's crazy. But you can do it too. You can do it no matter where you are. I'm sure that there's some local adventure. Even if you live in the middle of nowhere and there's no town 30 minutes away from you, chances are you understand the local adventure better than anyone living in a city, because there's so much land, there's so much room to explore out there. I used to work with a guy named Clay, who was my boss, and he had grown up in rural West Virginia, and he said something to the effect of, like, we grew up in a valley out in West Virginia, and we used to know every inch of the acreage out there, all this land, all this wide open space to just explore. That's a true adventure. I feel like it's us who live in cities and suburbs too, where we actually feel like the world is small and compressed, because there's just a couple places you go. There's home and there's work, and there's your regular grocery store, and there's really a short list of places that you actually want to get to. If you live in New York City, for example, I'm sure the same is true of LA and San Francisco and all the major cities as well. But if you live in New York City and you travel 30 minutes north, you know what you're gonna find? You're gonna find farmland, woods, and small town America right there. It still exists, I promise you, but nobody sees it because nobody wants to seek out these adventures. No one realizes the levels of vibrant life that are available to us if we just step outside of where we're comfortable going, or where we habitually go. All you gotta do is travel with no reason behind it anymore. You don't gotta go to Europe to see that. Europe is cool, right? Don't get me wrong, but you don't gotta go on some grand vacation to have the adventure of a lifetime. That adventure waits for you around the door of you just doing something unexpected. Get in your car and just go in a certain direction. You might even go to a new neighborhood of a city that you're in, and you have a completely different adventure, something that sticks with you in your mind years later. I'll tell you a story of not so rosy of an adventure I went on years ago, but I still remember it well. Back when I was cleaning up trash every single day, I lived in the city of Baltimore, and I would do my Google Maps move. I would just find like a green space, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go clean some trash over in this park. I found it. It's called Leakin Park. And I drove out there through West Baltimore. And West Baltimore is a sketchy area. The kind of where every business is boarded up, and homes have boards over their windows, and shoes are tied over wires, which I believe signals that it's like a drug dealer area, or it's somebody's corner or whatever. Maybe that's an urban myth for white boys, but that's what I heard. And so I get out to Leakin Park. I drive through some places, some neighborhoods that you could not have paid me enough money to step out of my car. And eventually I reach the park, find in various places needles on the ground. I found a $50 bill. There were some folks walking, enjoying the scenes on the trails. There was lots of orange tape, not like caution tape, but more like you see at a construction site, cordoning off people from going down near the river, because we're in a wooded area now. We're out of the city. We're next to the city, but it's a wooded area. There's some old lampposts. This was actually, I believe, Halloween Day. So it was that time of year. It was fall. And there were some lampposts that the lights were smashed out, like you see on the side of a road. Old style ones too. So it was kind of creepy. And on Monday, I go to you know, I go to the office and I'm talking about my adventure with some people around. My buddy goes, "Where did you say you went?" I said, "Leakin Park." He goes, "What? Where did you say you went?" "Leakin Park." He Googles it. The first search result is the bodies of Leakin Park. Apparently, this is where all bodies get dumped in Baltimore from gang violence, stuff like that. Damn, that's a crazy adventure. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. It probably wasn't even necessarily wise to go there, despite the fact that there were some normal-looking people, you know, minding their own business on the trails. But damn, that's scary. But that's a lifetime adventure. I'm gonna remember that day for the rest of my life. I'm sure there's days you'll remember for the rest of your life, for their own unique reasons. But if you think back on your experiences that you remember that are extremely potent to you, stick in your brain, was it a new experience? Was it a powerful emotional experience? Was it something just novel, fun, interesting? What stands out about it to you? Chances are it may have had some adventurous quality. The first memory that pops into my mind when I think of this is when I was in university, college. It was pouring rain in the fall. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, major-wise, whatever. And so I'm thinking deeply about the classes I'm taking, the path I'm on, so to speak. And I'm thinking all of this while it's pouring rain and I'm under the awning of this grand old building. Campus, they had these grand old buildings all over the place. It was one of those schools. Geez, it was like a movie. It was like a movie scene. It was like, what's the one, Blade Runner or something, where, what's his face? The Blade Runner is like it's snowing and he's on the steps and he's like, you probably have seen, if you haven't seen that, look up Blade Runner. Is it Ryan Gosling in that movie or is it somebody else? I don't know. But he's on the steps and it's like kind of slow-mo and he's just, he's like defeated. That's what I was up to. And by the way, when I was questioning what I wanted to do, my major and all that, I was like, I'm gonna go out in the rain and think about this because it's gonna be sick. I'm not thinking about this under the warm covers with some McDonald's in my hand. Nah, we're going into the world and we're gonna experience it raw. That's a great memory of mine now. It's cool, it sticks. So when you're always looking for these new experiences, when you're looking to drink deeply of life, what you're really looking for is a new adventure. Something new, novel, to break the routine, shake it up, shift it substantially, because when we get in our routines, we get stale in our work, in our relationships. Our habits become boring, even the good ones, like, you know, exercising. When you're able to break this routine significantly, shatter the expectation of your day, that's where the juice is at, that's where the spice is at. Those are the moments that you look back on and you remember vividly. Wow, I've never been here before. Wow, I can't believe I'm here. Those are the moments where the brain, the thought process of the brain, the chatter, right? The rumination. Those are the moments when you take out the key, pull it out of the ignition, and you're just experiencing the moment fully for the first time. You're fully present. You get to be there with your feet on the ground. You get to be where your feet are. And that's the key. When we're in those moments where we're just in true, I guess that flow state, it's like a meditative state that you enter when you're truly there and you're not thinking. Those flow states, that's the juice. You can't have a bad thought in a flow state. You don't even have a thought in a flow state because you're in the middle of the adventure. You're in the middle of the quest. Even if in the moment you're battling some kind of adversity, like it's pouring rain and it's cold out and you're questioning, you know, blah, blah, blah. But in those moments, there's a certain peace, a certain zest, you know? I think we lose that when we spend too much time, not only in our routines, but especially on screens, scrolling, social media, just getting lost in endless rabbit hole of content and videos and consumption Hell, I make these partially now. It's my 5th video in 5 days, but we just get bombarded with all this information, you know? So why not give some information? Why not? You need to expel it. You know, you need to try something new, something different. But when we get caught in those modes, you're almost bombarded by so much overstimulation that you just get shell-shocked a little bit. You're like, you know, you just get shell-shocked a little bit. Where the real world, people forget that life is the real world. These devices, the device I'm filming this on is my phone. You're watching on your phone or your computer. These devices are meant to add value to our lives, but they detract it. And worse yet, more insidious, is that if you're scrolling and you see someone you know or a famous influencer, you know, posting their vacation and wherever, there's a little like, why am I not there? There's a little jealousy, there's a little animosity. It's a little maybe an unrealistic expectation. Maybe that person, you don't know how they paid for that trip. Maybe they're going into credit card debt to buy it. Or maybe they're, you know, maybe they're rich. Maybe they got a sugar daddy or sugar mama. I don't know. But that doesn't compare to your life. But people will compare themselves to it. And they'll say, why am I just in my apartment working this dead-end job? That may not even really be a dead end. But this comparison, it's the theft of joy. Because people aren't living. You're not comparing anything when you're on a quest of your own. You're literally just there, soaking it in and experiencing it. But when we're out of that nowadays, it's easier than ever to compare what you got or your life or something else against somebody else's when it's not analogous. It's apples to oranges. It doesn't even mean anything or make a difference. In fact, you may live a very happy life yourself. But when you're faced with this comparison, you're getting bombarded and you're not actually life maxing. It just stings all the extra. So I don't know. You gotta be out there doing things, doing shit. To get back to the thesis, the start of this video, yesterday, wanted to just go out there and find something. Wow. A new park, a new experience. There was so much more to do up there. What if I'd gotten out of my car and wandered into the woods? Could probably build a tent up there. Could probably camp out and be homeless for a night if I wanted to. There's another vast state park up there where I actually can go camping. There's some RVs and some old ruins in that park. Always wondered about. If I slept under the stars there in a tent, would there be coyotes? Or snakes, or I have a fire pit and make some food. These are intriguing thoughts. These are very intriguing thoughts. Maybe it's some adventure I'll have to go on in the future. But what in your life calls you like that, you know? What do you even mean to do or you'd want to do that's actually totally achievable? Do you have a yearning nostalgia for small town America? Well, just leave your city in your car for 25 minutes and you could probably find something like it, no matter where you are. Do you want to experience nature? Go on Google Maps, find a green park. Are you just sick and tired of your routine? You don't even have time to get out there, you don't own a car or something? What if you went to an Asian grocery store and prepared a totally different style of food for dinner than anything you'd ever done? You'd be adventuremaxx. And it would turn out really well or it'd turn out badly. It'd be an adventure, it doesn't matter. So what are you doing? What's your quest, baby? Come on. If there's one thing that I'm making all these videos about, it's about life maxing, baby. Sometimes these videos I'm sure make sense and sometimes they don't, but damn, if there isn't so much juice out there in the world behind me, go find it, go do it, break the routine, live to the max, adventure max.